Welcome. This is being filmed on the 11th of January 2022. Here and now, we're going to discuss the way through mid to end of January 2022. My name is Timothy Halloran. My website is rasalilacommunity.com. There you can join my next Q&A circle, which will be on January 23rd. For those of you who may be going through it, you're welcome to join my Q&A for only $12 a month. You can submit your chart, ask a question, and get a mini 5 to 10 minute reading from myself personally every single month. I also have an Astro School. I offer one-on-one mentorship sessions for students. All is available at rasalilacommunity.com. I was recently speaking with a good friend of mine, a successful painter, about the creative process. And we were talking about how the creative process is similar to childbirth. Well, to be totally honest, we were actually talking about how the creative process is most similar to pooping. The artist goes into the world and receives all of this information, all of this experience. The artist internalizes this experience and has an inner experience, an emotional experience. And then the artist expresses, releases that emotional experience back into the world through some art, poetry, music, etc. This is also the case with authentic astrologers. We're not only studying the stars and the planets, we have a direct connection to the collective, and we receive that information internally somehow, and then we externalize it. So I often find that I get very constipated before I put these videos out. I'm a feeler myself. It's as if I can feel the entire world inside my actual stomach. And I'll let you know, this video has me very constipated. I don't know how there's any way through that's not going to be a little messy. There's so much shifting. There's so much changing this next couple of weeks. These are big tides that are changing. These are large waves that are moving. And there can be so much that's getting swept up and released. I shoot these videos under every new and full moon. This is just to give us a rhythm, so that way we're meeting twice a month. This next full moon that we'll be discussing on the 17th is in her own sign of Cancer, opposite to Pluto, opposite to asteroid Juno. This is a feeling full moon. Very emotional, very charged, very intense. Yes, this guy here was born under a moon-Pluto opposition. So for those of you who have watched my videos for a while and know my style and tone, you'll see maybe some of that reflected in this forthcoming full moon in the emotional sign of Cancer. Now, so much focus is also on Venus. So Venus and the moon are our two feminine planets. And there's so much that's shifting with the feminine, with this Venus retrograde, with this full moon in her own sign. Again, this is like the tides are coming in and out. The feminine can be understood for her rhythmic motions, for her dancing, for her weaving. And our understanding of the feminine, our planning and creating containers and laying a foundation to hold that feminine. It's almost as if we are on this boat and we're learning how to navigate. We're learning how to map the stars so that way we can maneuver through these tides. And where necessary, we may need to get to higher ground. So much of this Venus retrograde is taking us into an examination of support, where we do or do not receive it, how we are meeting equally or not in our relationships, how we are able to maintain our own center in our own values, what we consider most important, what we love and cherish in ourself. This value system, in many respects, is what creates our relationship to all of the rest of life. So this goes very, very deep. Venus is like the original human myth, going back to the Babylonian era. And Venus's descent into the underworld is this very real human experience. And when Venus goes retrograde, this is when we are having this opportunity to descend. And we have stripped away all the fears, insecurities, clutters, inadequacies that gets in the way of what may be a healthier support system, a container that allows for this rhythm between self and other, inside, outside, give and take, speaking up and listening. This is what we are laying a foundation for. This is also what we're excavating, what we're purging, what we're releasing. This can be a scary time. This can be a time that's very emotionally charged. This can be a grieving time. This can be a mourning time. This can be a letting go and a releasing. Now, there's so much to say. I don't want to get lost in astrology lingo, but this next year and a half, the moon's north node is in Venus's sign of Taurus. I'm going to speak so much to Venus, which is such an important archetype. Venus being the jewel of humanity. Venus being this attraction dynamic. Venus is like what we're attracted to, what we find tasty, what we find enjoyable, what we find pleasurable. You know, it's like we're really discovering how can we bring that in our life in a way that's healthy, in a way that can be shared, in a way that can improve ours and others' lives. So this month begins with this excavation, this purging, this uncertainty of what we like or who we like or what we want to do. As we'll discuss, more of this certainty will come into a clear vision as we leave January into February. But I'm encouraging all of us this month to be as easygoing as we can possibly be on ourselves, and to be as flexible to these changing rhythms, as these changing times, as we're mapping the undertow, we're mapping the tides, we're learning how to create structures for the rhythms that actually works. So we can keep ourselves sustained, we can keep ourselves replenished, we can stay centered without losing ourselves to the gravity, the interference, the distractions that can be coming from other people and the world. This is a time of honing in. It is also a time of clearing out. Now, just a couple days ago, on the 8th, Venus began her new cycle. This is her inferior conjunction when she is retrograde and passes the sun. This is also when Venus enters into her Lucifer phase, meaning that she is the morning star. The Lucifer side of Venus is entirely about the future attempting to liberate itself from the past. Just so we understand, Lucifer means light bearer. Lucifer is a direct reference to Venus as the morning star. And Lucifer is the future, who is in challenging the past to break free, to liberate, and move forward. And this is how Venus is when she is in her morning star phase. She is pioneering, she is innovative, she is restless, and she is challenging the status quo. She is wringing out the mop of all the old dynamics that used to get in the way of our loving, caring, and supporting ourselves, which is the priority and the prerequisite to being capable of loving and supporting others. And we're learning how to do this simultaneously in this hot potato back and forth. It's your turn to cry and purge. Now it's my time to cry and purge as we release layer after layer of the past in order to anchor deeper and deeper into who we actually are authentically in the present. What do we actually value? What do we love? How can we create this, construct this, build this long term? Have this internal compass and understanding of why we're here and what we're meant to do. This is a big shift. This is a big excavation. This can really be clearing the debris to take us into the heart. And I think this is why I began by talking about the constipation, is this is a really uncomfortable process. To be totally honest, I think that the clearing of debris from the heart is one of the most uncomfortable processes, because to have our heart blocked is one of the most painful things that a person can experience. And do we experience these heart blocks naturally? Yes, because the world is not just pleasure. The world is not just fun and games. We have not all known support. We have not all known supportive family. Hence this full moon in Cancer. During this Venus retrograde, it's a very charged, very healing Venus retrograde. Venus will station direct at the end of this month, square to Chiron. So there's very much this healing journey. I like to describe Chiron as the experience of when we go to a cheap restaurant and get food poisoning. And then we spend the whole evening shitting and vomiting those toxins into the toilet. Maybe a little bit grotesque, but I think we get the idea. These are not necessarily the periods we look forward to the most. They're not the most comfortable periods, but they serve a very noble endeavor, that we're removing these toxins from our system. Whatever expectations and obligations came in from the past in terms of relationship, how our parents were, what our parents deemed us as the path throughout life, that's where there's going to be a lot of rectification. And it's not just relationships. This is happening inwardly. It is a changing of the guard, so we can relate to ourselves as our own authority. This is Venus in Capricorn. It's the time to be our own authority. It's time for us to be the guard, us to lay the foundation for what we want to build in the world. And it's not the time to be taking these top down, this is what I should be or what I should do. Those are going to be the things that we're coming up against that can be very uncomfortable or very oppressive or very limiting. And then we're going to purge that out. We're going to have uncomfortable conversations. And this also, again, takes place individually. It's this releasing from the prison guard of the past. The rules of the game are changing. And yet we've had particular past experiences that were wounding. And so there is this need to surrender, need to kind of thaw, to bring our hearts out into the open where it is safe and where it is supportive, because that is the balance. It is not simply this naive trusting that life is going to lead us wherever we're meant to be led because everything in the world is our helper and our friend. That's why we don't open our hearts so easily, is that's not the world we've known. That's not what we've been trained to do. We've been trained to protect ourselves. We've been trained to hide ourselves. We've been trained to do it all ourselves, or to command other people, to control other people, to manipulate other people as being the only way to get others to support us. Because vulnerability has been shunned in the patriarchal era, and we have not known each other for our inner essence, and we have not felt safe to go there. There's going to be this trial and error need to experiment, so to discover what is the safe space, what is the supportive rhythm, routine. Again, we're bringing this into our life. For example, it could be a work dynamic, like I have this certain hours that I'm expected to do, and the group or the organization really likes it when I perform this way, but I actually, by doing it a little bit differently, actually bring more to the group. And so I'm really uncomfortable to ask my boss if he could treat me specially. We feel weird to ask that. I don't want to get special treatment, but it's like, this is what we have to pay forward to honor the divine feminine, to honor our unique nature, to honor our own rhythm, biological flow, basic needs. Just as the sun rises and the sun sets, each of us are going to have these unique needs. This can also be reflected through relationships. Say you were born to a parental situation where your mom and dad were each other's only people. They never had friends, and they never went out, and they were just the only people in each other's lives. And then we find ourselves unconsciously assuming those roles. And now we find ourselves with a person who doesn't have that same circumstance or experience. And maybe they're connecting with so many people or traveling around the world. And it's just like, is this safe? This is not familiar. This is not what I've known love to be. Is this still loving? I have not known this to be supportive. Is this still supporting? And this is where we have to experiment. We have to push on boundaries. We have to step into the discomfort, but we also have to be tremendously caring and listening to our own inner child and what is safe and permissible to us. So there's actually a tremendous amount of feeling and digesting and releasing coupled with uncertainty mid-January. This week, it's Mars square Neptune, exact on the 11th. I mean, this is the classic treading water in the middle of the ocean and not having a sense of where to go. It can also be energy levels being completely spontaneous. Like, I wake up today and I'm full of life, full of energy, full of passion. I'm dreaming about all of these possibilities, and then we wake up the next day and it's just like that was a pipe dream. And I'm depressed and I'm lethargic, and I was so excited to go in this direction, and now it doesn't seem like that's a direction I can go to at all, and it's back to the drawing board. There is much clarity that's coming, but we're only part way there. This is about an excavation. This is, again, where I have been very steadily encouraging us to break rules. Again, Lucifer has taken a very negative connotation through our weird Christian history, but the actual history and essence of Lucifer being the light bearer, and Lucifer was not the devil until only a few centuries ago. I mean, it is the Uranian, Promethean, challenging what is known because the future is unknown. And if we look into the future, is it going to be congruent and agreeing with the old rules, regulations, what's good and bad, what worked in the past? Probably not. It's probably going to seem very different. It may even seem a little weird and a little bit freaky. And we don't have to skip and jump there either. This is still Capricorn season. You know, the sun will go into Aquarius on the 11th here. Today, no wonder it's talking so much about this Aquarian Luciferian dynamic. But there's going to be like this loaded spring. This is the relationship between Saturn, Uranus, Capricorn, Aquarius. It's like this conditioning and this karma and this restriction and this limitation. And each of us have been dealt a card, right? That's part of what Saturn is. We have a particular karmic package. We experience particular blockages. We experience particular limitations. There is the level on which all of us human beings are human beings, and we're learning how to communicate our needs so that way we can create more support for one another. So it's more than just food, shelter, water. We need touch, we need love, we need feedback. We all have these basic needs. And then on a whole nother level, each individual receives a particular card. And we do have particular detriments, lacks, and challenges and blockages that isn't actually a punishment. That's where Saturn goes very wrong, is it feels like a punishment, and that's how Capricorn season can feel. Very barren, empty, godless, like a, just a tundra, a frozen tundra, and there's no room for life here. This is not meant for life. So that is this Capricorn Saturnarian loaded spring, and it gets oppressive and limiting and barren, and there has to be this breakdown where we recognize there is a different way. We can break the rules. We can challenge the patterns. We can challenge the norms. It's like when there's so much pressure on water pressure, that water is going to shoot out another way. It's going to break ground in another way. It's like frozen pipes. They get so restrictive and small, the water ends up breaking the pipe. That's what we're working with this month. We have to give ourselves some real grace to go through this frozen pipe breaking experience. Chiron is like where we are all this medicinal herb just getting crushed, as if we're in a mortar and a pestle, just getting crushed. And this is actually a part of the human process. It's not a mistake. It's not a karmic punishment. This is the process of spirituality. It is the process of waking up our heart. It's the process of cultivating a direct relationship with miracles that comes out of the heartbreak experience. See, when we crush that medicinal herb, the essence gets released. This is the process we're going through. We're getting crushed out of those old limiting roles, those old limiting expectations and obligations, the way we had to do our job, the way we had to pay the bills, be a parent, be a partner. We want to break out of that. And yet, because the future is unknown, this can be terrifying. Where are we going? What does that look like? Nobody knows. This is where we can take each other by the hand. We can walk step by step. It's your turn to be triggered and to be afraid. It's my turn to be triggered and afraid. And we hold a space for those insecurities. It's like a barf bag. We can be providing for one another these days. That is the healing medicine, is we take turns holding the barf bag and we just create this safe space to feel really awful so you can clear that out. See, when you're constipated and you're trying to clench yourself, you stay locked up. The safe space is what releases. And then the poop can become creativity, becomes the medicinal healing essence, becomes the miraculous, godly spiritual experience. This is the reality of Chiron. This is even the reality of Saturn and Pluto. These are the most challenging and hard parts of life. Lead us into this type of breaking down. Now, 10 degrees of the fixed signs. You want to pull up your birth chart, and my friends, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, 10 degrees. Whatever planets you got there, they're going to be getting whacked. They're going to be getting activated. There's going to be some type of evolutionary maturing. Also, a tremendous opportunity to liberate and reinvent whatever planets and whatever functions they represent in our natal chart. 10 degrees of the fixed signs. That's where Uranus stations direct on the 18th, 10 degrees Taurus. And then on the 14th, several days before, Mercury is stationing retrograde, 10 degrees Aquarius. Just several degrees from Saturn and square to Uranus. Okay, so we've got this Saturn-Mercury square to Uranus, while Mercury and Uranus station. It's very, very charged. Now, first of all, Mercury's stationing on Saturn is extraordinarily scrutinizing, serious. It's like, really, let's get to what works. And let's make sure that it actually works. And you know what? This can also be Mercury recognizing these are the blocks. These are the limitations. Look at what's not working here. This can bring like a penetrative X-ray machine to community, for example. It's like, look at how this community is. Look at how the individuals are functioning together. Look at this network. Is this working? You know, where are the blockages? Where is this, networking getting all knotted up? Or where are there creative blocks that are preventing innovation, that are preventing a type of communal sharing so we can give and take from one another? There's also things that can be born from this. This scrutinizing energy can also be extraordinarily innovative, making new discoveries, brilliant breakthroughs, seeing with a certain sense of clarity. But this is particularly, again, in this Promethean, rule-breaking, challenging what we're seeing. It's like what we're seeing isn't good enough with this Mercury station in Aquarius. It's like it could be better. We could improve this. We could change around some of these parts. We could revolutionize this approach, this program, this way of running things. What do we even know? That's what this Mercury retrograde. Third quarter square to Uranus, conjunct Saturn. It's like, what do we even really know what we're doing? What do we really know? Do these scientists know what they're doing? Are these experiments always going to turn out like it's 100% one way or the other? No, it's like this very scrutinizing, skeptical doubt. Do we know what we're doing? Is this really the best it could be? Meanwhile, Uranus stationing direct can bring these sudden shifts with money, property, lifestyle. It's like the frickin' rug's getting ripped out from under our feet. And that's a part of what can be catalyzing these observations as well as these doubts and insecurities. It's like, well, what do we do now? So there can be a tremendously revelatory realization. There's more and more light dawning. Things are becoming more and more clear. But my friends and family, I put these videos out because I care and I think astrology is useful. And I do think that we want to give ourselves the benefit of the doubt, just to take things as flexible as possible. We don't have to put all our eggs in one basket. We don't have to know. This Mercury stationing retrograde on Saturn doesn't know. It is this opening up to what more is possible. And then we'll see a few weeks later that Mercury will station direct on February 3rd, conjunct Pluto. And again, start of February is going to be much, much more clear. Mercury is going to be on Pluto the week last of January into the second week of February. So end of this month, beginning of February, very penetrative mind. Really seeing to the bottom of the barrel, really understanding what's working and what's not. And we got to change this. Something has got to change. And certainly there's changes happening with this Venus retrograde. Who they were several months ago is not who they are now. Who we are several months ago is not who we are now. Again, this excavation of the heart is tremendously uncomfortable because it's like the base level of the soul. That is the throne of the soul and God. The super soul and the soul sit together in the heart chakra, Paramatma and Jiva. And we're forming a better relationship between the two by clearing and purging all of this muck out. And then it's just like, who am I? Did I even know myself and what I really need and what really fills me up? And how about them? So there's this significant changing, both in value system, personally, what we like, our rhythms, how we're bringing it all together, because it's about discovering more of our value system and then laying the foundation for it. It's not like we're just discovering this value system and then going off. We're discovering this treasure, and then how can we disseminate it? How can we make money from it? How can we build this into community? How can we build this into a new way of living, a new lifestyle? That's, again, Uranus stationing in Taurus. We're inventing a new lifestyle, a new way of exchanging resources, a new way of being filled up, a new way of sharing what we love. But in relationship as well, this is tremendously revolutionary. What is relationship? How are we using relationship? What does that mean to us? How are we building security? How are we building commitment? How can we build a structure that will increase our love over time versus creating securities built upon, versus creating structures built upon insecurities, which are guaranteed to self-destruct through the inevitability of time, because we're running away from something. Oh, I need to hold on to this because I'm running away from something, and then that inevitably blows up. Or do we face this? Do we process this? And then we discuss how to build this raft on top of these rhythms, these changes, these shifts. The whole world's shifting. The whole species is shifting. We have to navigate. We have to be the captain of our own ship. So Venus, feminine principle, in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is very masculine in its nature and essence. You know, not to go into technicalities. So it's like, how do we build this shift that's going to last time, going to last the waves crashing into it? Moon in Cancer, how we're feeling, how we're emoting, opposite to Pluto in Capricorn. It's like these changing structures, these changing paradigms. There's also changings to family unit, a lot of emotional processing from the past, but also can be family, home, safe, supportive space. There's going to be this upheaval and releasing of past emotional stories. And then can we create a structure for this new paradigm? One example of how we're all changing this structure as a species is in the old age. We used to say that strength was our capability to hold ourselves together and to be completely unshaking. And when we have emotions, they interfere with our focus. And so we try not to feel. And we try not to let our own individual quirks get in the way of what we're offering back to society, our bosses, etc. That's the old paradigm. It's the dog eat dog, fight to survive. Saturn, Capricorn. The new structure that we can be building, the new rules that we can be inventing, And this incredibly powerful reframe is what strength can be is vulnerability. We can create a new standard for strength and how willing we are to expose even our most scary, vulnerable, fearful places. Because that is what allows us to create systems of self-support. And we need to do this both inwardly, as our own inner parent to our own inner child. Give ourselves those pats on the back. No one saw what you just did, but I did, and you did a great job. Pats on the back. And we're going to give ourselves a little treat. And you're having a really rough day. You know what? You don't have to, work yourself into, a steaming pile of ash, just dissolving yourself, working to death. Take some time to take that bath. Moon and Cancer medicine. We're all going to have to apply this because this is a very intense emotional moon. So it's like, okay, just take the bath. And you know what? Now we're the parent. An inner mother saying to inner child, you are safe to feel. No matter what you are feeling in the moment that you feel it. You may feel like you're being stoned to death. You may feel like you're being abandoned. You may feel like you are a complete letdown to your family. It's safe to feel this. You may feel like there's no support. You may feel like you never had a mother. You're safe to feel this too. The more we form this relationship between inner mother and inner child, the more we are brought into a direct contact with the mother, with the capital M. And then we can discover this miracle, which is the Venus miracle to discover. This is where things are going to get really amazing. The fact that the North Node goes into Taurus on the 18th and then Venus stations direct at the end of the month. It's like we're really kicking in a brand new evolutionary track. We're getting off of one track and getting onto the other track, and this new track is Venus. It is what do you love, what do you cherish, and how can you center yourself in that? This can become clear. The way of returning back to ourselves. And again, this is the prerequisite to creating supportive, committed, long-lasting relationships with others, whether that be a collaborative project or it be a romantic relationship. We return to our center. We learn how to fill ourself up. And this does become very divine and very spiritual for those of us who are very willfully seeking this self-connection, Venus. This is going to be completely unique for each and every one of us. There is no one-size-fits-all. This is something we need to watch out for while the moon's south node completes Sagittarius, would be this assumption that what works for these people is what everybody needs. Everybody has a totally unique spiritual path that first we have to discover, or I should say, first we have to uncover, then we discover, then we align with it, then we start to get centered, then we start to purify everything that got in the way, and then we come into our center channel. Okay? Get ready for that track. This new endeavor is just being kicked off. But the fact that the North Node goes into Taurus and then Venus stations direct is kind of amazing because there's this huge clearing of the heart, and then we can step into that embodiment. It's going to be all about embodiment. It's going to be all about somatic healing, getting into our bodies, learning how to relax so we can create this inner sovereign container of self-support. There will also be themes coming up these weeks that are introducing some of the challenges that gets in the way of that. The distractions, the interferences, the messiness, and the chaos, like a whirlpool of the world going on around us. We're beginning this year with a huge kickoff. We're kicking this boat off and we're setting sail, returning to our center, returning to ourself, and we can see that these rapids lay ahead. This is the way through, my friends. We are the captain of our ship. Expect the rapids. The rapids are not punishment or failure. They are the feminine, which changes simply like the changing weather or the changing seasons. By listening to the rapids, listening to the waves, we can begin to get an understanding of the toe, of the tide. We can begin to lay a foundation for that rhythm that allows for us to stay centered without losing ourselves to what's going on the outside. And then we get to build a new lifestyle, doing what we love, sharing with those that we love. That is our opportunity. That is where we will expect to be challenged. We want the full spectrum of the pendulum swinging back and forth, because this is the process of healing, purging, cleansing, and creating this brand new tunnel. It's like we're carving a frickin' tunnel through the mountainside. And I'm wishing you all the very best, because I think if we can get down with this excavation, we're going to feel those tunnels filling with a great sense of renewal, of life, of support, direction, and momentum. That's what we're paying forward these weeks. I'm wishing you all the very best. This full moon in Cancer, again, it's an opportunity to take care of the inner child. You know what? I'm going to put my guided MP3 Return to the Inner Child half off through the rest of January. So you can go to rosalilahealing.com/store. It is a simple, easy guided meditation, like a hypnosis script. You can take it into the bath or somewhere comfortable. It's going to easily and nurturingly, I know that's not a word, guide you through this reparenting, filling ourselves up, providing an inner system of self-support. So again, I'm going to put that 50% off in the store. I am wishing you all the best and looking forward to seeing you on the flip side.